You are listening to the Prosper Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Hi. Today I'd like to talk about something called the whirlwind in your business, or the idea of working on your business versus working in your business. And what does it mean to work on your business? If you're working on your business, by the way that I'm using the term, it means that you're doing things to improve your business. In other words, you're working on the 6 parts of the business, or 7 parts really, if you include yourself as the 7th part, and mindset and all of that. So if you look at, your location, which I've talked about in previous podcasts, if you're talking about your marketing, if you're talking about sales and bringing clients in, and your systems, in other words, how you do the processes and that sort of thing, your policies and procedures, if you're improving those and you're changing those and you're adapting those, you're working on your business, the way I'm using the term. In other words, you have a business that's functioning and it's running, but you always see things that you wish were different. You see things that you would like to improve upon. Working in your business, if you're a lawyer, if you're practicing law, then that's the legal work. That's the answering the phones, doing the meeting with the clients, looking at the file, working on the case, preparing for court, or preparing whatever the legal work you do is. That's working in your business. If you're working on your business, you're doing things to improve your business, to make your business more efficient, more profitable, just getting in a situation where you have the capacity to serve your clients better. Usually that involves having policies and procedures, clear definitions, job descriptions, making sure that for each thing that's in your business, there's one person that's responsible for it. You have this idea that if you assign something to 3 people, then no one's responsible. So if you make one person responsible for a task or a project or doing a certain job in a job description, that person knows it's their job, and if they don't do it, it's not going to get done. So these things are very important if you want to grow your business, if you want to have more clients, you want to have more revenue, you want to have a situation where you've got scheduled and set downtime, vacations, where you can go and give yourself self-care and restoration, versus just basically practicing law all day. And so the idea is, are you working in your business or are you working on your business? If you're not working on your business, then perhaps your business is running well, maybe it's not running so well, it can be hectic, and then the problems are recurring. So the issues and problems, the things that you notice, are things that happen over and over and over. So if you're able to change those, and the idea is, at least in theory, you can fix a problem one time, and that problem now is fixed. It's corrected. You've come up with a solution, your people know what to do, and so as you eliminate those problems, your business runs more smoothly, you do a better job for your clients are happier, they're better informed, they know what's going on, and that leads to them becoming fans of your business, them having a good experience. The idea is that they want to tell other people that you're doing a great job and that they would recommend you, because if you don't do a good job, people are reluctant to recommend you, because when you recommend something to someone, the person making the recommendation puts their reputation on the line. In other words, if I tell you, hey, this is a great restaurant, and then you take a party out, you take 4 people out to dinner, it's something important, it's something meaningful to you, and the restaurant, it doesn't live up, then that comes back to me and I feel badly about it. Most people who make recommendations only do so if they feel completely confident in that business or in that product. Now, if they do feel confident in it and they do love it, then they can be what's called raving fans. And raving fans almost can't rest until you go try their product, their service, their doctor, their restaurant. They really want you to go because it's such a great experience that they want you to have that. If they come to your law firm, and maybe even you get a great result, but it's not a good experience, it's not a good client experience, it's not a good customer experience, then they're less likely to send people to you. So the idea is, if your law firm or your law practice has bumps and holes in it, then you're not going to grow. You're not growing. You may be declining, or more than likely you're just not getting the growth that you should get or you want to get. Most people usually in our society expect or want their business to grow. Certainly you want your business to grow at least at the rate of inflation, because otherwise your business, if your business takes in, say, $350,000 a year of gross income, and then the people that work for you, they expect a raise every year, they expect more, your expenses go up. If you make the same money for, say, 10 years in a row, you're not making the same money. So there's this built-in idea of growth throughout our economy because of our money system. So are you working on your business, or are you working in your business? If you look at big law firms, big successful law firms, mostly in the personal injury area, you have law firm owners who all they do is work on their business. They don't handle cases, they don't do casework, they don't meet with clients, they don't even meet with people who are disgruntled. They have other people to do that. So all they do all day, or all the time that they devote to the business, is working on the business. And so then their growth curve is extraordinary. For the rest of us, or for everyone else, it's a balancing act. So how much time are you working on your business? If you work, say, 50 hours a week and you spend maybe 2 hours a month reviewing whether or not you're going to try this new marketing, or whether you're going to try this new headhunter, or running an ad to try to improve how you bring in employees and that sort of thing, then you're working on your business. So if you're working 50 hours a week, let's say that's 200 hours in a 4-week period or in a month, and you're spending 2 hours almost inadvertently looking at something, rather trying to decide, do I want to run that ad, or do I want to try to cut this expense, or do I need to replace this employee? Do I need to give this employee a raise? In that setting, then you're out of, say, 200 hours, you're spending 2 hours on it. So is that enough? It's probably not enough. And then you also have this idea, and I can't remember who coined the phrase, but it was certainly in a business book or something that I read, and they talk about the whirlwind. And if you've ever had this experience, certainly in a busy law office, you're thinking about going into work, or you had a good idea last night, or you saw something that you thought was important, something that maybe you should implement. Then in the morning, you check your emails, you get to the office, And if your office is anything like mine was, and my office was like this for decades, I couldn't walk in the door without being bombarded by questions. In other words, because people didn't have processes and didn't know what to do, I was the person they had to ask for everything. And then this person called, this client's got a question, court got moved. What do I do? What do I do? How do I handle that? And so then I would face that when I walked in, and then just one thing after another happens. The phone's ringing, calls are coming through, things are not scheduled, I'm getting random calls, I send out some emails which trigger some more emails, and it's really in that kind of situation, what I was doing is troubleshooting and problem solving all day. I remember I served on this business committee for the Myrtle Beach Area Chamber of Commerce, and there was an older guy in there, and I think he worked for something called SCORE, which was a nonprofit organization which would try to help small businesses grow and do better in terms of being more efficient. And basically what he was trying to teach people is to work on their business. Now at that time, I remember him saying to me that what he found when he went into businesses is that most small businesses were in chaos. And I remember thinking, well, that's interesting. I wouldn't expect that. I'm glad my law firm, I'm glad my law practice isn't like those other small businesses that are in chaos. What I didn't realize at the time, it took me years later from coaching and learning things, is that I was 100% in chaos. When I walked in the door and everybody's throwing problems at me, and I'm the bottleneck, I'm the person that has to make all the decisions, I'm the person that has to do everything, I have to direct everybody on everything, my business was in chaos. My small business, my small law practice was 100% chaos. So you would think that you would know that. You would think that I would know that, but I didn't know it because that's the way I lived. I remember and I had different paralegals because they came and go, probably because it wasn't a good place to work and they didn't have clear direction. So if somebody was really good, it was just a matter of time because they were going to leave because, A players, good people, they can't work in that chaos. It's exhausting. It wears people out. It's not a good experience. And for me, it wasn't a good experience at all. I would come into my office. I had court all the time because I was doing criminal defense. And so I would be in the office before the staff came in, grabbing the file, looking at the file, really going by the seat of my pants. When I look back at that and the stress that created and the issues that created for me, it was really terrible. But because I didn't know any better, I just thought that's the way it was. I thought if you practice law, that's what that is. That's not what it is, or at least that's not what it has to be. If you work on your business and you start solving these issues, then your business improves, your life gets better, things become calmer. And there's several things that you can do in that regard. I think it's Vern Harnish who has the book Scaling Up. There's a couple of operating systems. There's the EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System, which we used for a number of years, which is very good. Friends of mine, people I know, they use the other system, which is Scaling Up. They're very similar. They're operating systems that a person or a company needs when they get to a certain number of employees to just cut through the chaos and be able to run the business. So I think I was at a seminar in New Orleans, and Vern Harnish was talking, and he's promoting his book, They also have, I think, programs where they coach people to scale up and do those sort of things, which are very beneficial for people. And he said that to really solve your business problems, you need a workspace or an office outside your office. And he recommended that somebody like me, to avoid the chaos, to avoid not being able to think. Because at the end of the day, after I maybe had a good idea driving to work, I went in there, and after I had so much coming at me, I forgot I even had the good idea. And maybe I never even remembered it. I certainly wasn't able to implement anything because I was on that, what do you call the treadmill or like the hamster wheel. That's what I did. So that's what my life looked like. I go to the office, get on that wheel, run till I'm exhausted, go home, rest, get up, rinse and repeat. That's what it looked like. Now, because I've been coached, I've learned, and it's taken me some time to do this, but my day's not like that at all. I spend a limited amount of time in the office. Right now, I'm scheduled to be in my office. I think I'm scheduled in the office 18 hours a week. Now, that doesn't mean, I'm laying out by the pool or drinking margaritas or laying around, watching Netflix. In the time that I'm not there, and I have other businesses besides my law firm, I'm scheduling to work on the office. I'm working on the business and making improvements or trying to make improvements and trying to change things for the better. So what Vern Harnish is talking about is get a space outside your office. It could be a home office, possibly. It could be a location. When I had to do certain projects, I remember I had taken this post-conviction relief action, and there was not a lawyer in my office that was capable of doing it. The way I do those, it was very involved. I don't do them anymore. I literally used a room down the street, half a block down the street at a friend of mine's law firm. I asked them if I could use the room. I would go to that room, and I would work on that project. And I would do that several hours a week because it had to get done. And it was impossible for me to do it. It was impossible for me to work at work. And so the idea of having a space is very important if you're going to think through issues and solve problems. I never spent any time thinking. I never spent any time looking at and reflecting on the business and how we were doing it. I thought, and this was even because I had, my clients loved me because whenever they called, I answered the phone. People that worked for me, receptionists, paralegals, they said they had never worked for somebody who took phone calls like that. And so the clients loved me, and I remember thinking at times that my clients love me because I'm accessible, I'm answering all their questions, but what they don't realize is I'm not working on their file. I'm not working on their files. I'm not doing what I need to do to get their case ready because I'm just talking to them and getting bombarded by all this other stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. Almost every meeting, phone call I have now is scheduled. I have regularly scheduled meetings with people that work for me. Some of those are weekly, some of those are monthly, some of those are quarterly. Phone calls, if I'm going to have a phone call, I call it a phone conference, and someone schedules that. No one's going to schedule a meeting for me when they look at the calendar and they see, well, he's not scheduled to be in the office. So what that allows me to do is to work on my business and improve my business, and that's why my business has grown. It's grown with people, it's grown from the size of the office, it's grown in the number of cases that we handle each month and each year. The revenues have grown, my income has grown, and all of that has grown as a result of me weekly or daily working to do it better, to work on the business. And back when I was doing that post-conviction relief, there was no way I could do it unless I had that quiet space. When I first started coaching back in 2013, the coaches, they told us, you need to spend at least an hour or two a week, carve out an hour, 2 hours a week, go somewhere. Now, you can't go to your house if people are there. And sometimes you can't go to your house if people aren't there, but you see something, you need to wash the dishes or the laundry needs folding, so you have these distractions. So sometimes, unless you're the kind of person that can just block that out and do what you need to do without those distractions, the house, your home, apartment, is probably not the best place. I would literally go to the Marriott in Myrtle Beach, and there were different hotels and different places that I tried where I would go. Right now, a friend of mine, we share an office space in North Myrtle Beach, and we have an office there, but there's no staff there, and so she and I sometimes will go there, and not together, but we can do that together because we don't interrupt each other, just to have that quiet space to work on the business. And logistically, this is not easy to do, but it is important. Maybe you have an office that's soundproof, maybe you have an office that's quiet, maybe you have an office where no one interrupts you. I know that some people manage this by getting to work before anybody else. So if the office opens at 8:30 or 8 o'clock or something like that, they're sitting in their office at, say, 7:30, and so they have an hour before people come in at 8:30, or they're sitting in the office earlier, 6:30, and people that do that. Now, there are other people that are not a morning person, and so they do that after work. A lot of people that stay after work. Now, some of that is they're just really working in the business, but they need that quiet time to get that done. But if you can carve out some time, and if you're not doing any at all, I think a couple of options are try to find, say, I would recommend an hour and a half to 2 hours a week to just start doing this, to have the quiet time, and then to start making improvements and thinking about what you're going to do to make it better. If your office was like my office and it closed at say 5 or 5:30, I could stay an hour late. Now for me, at the end of the day, I'm spent. So that's not a time where I'm really going to be able to focus or do anything, because by the end of the day, I was pretty much worn out. So Saturday, perhaps, it depends on how far you live from your office, how long a commute it is. You could do this on a Saturday morning for just 2 hours and start looking at what you want to do and how you want to do that. Now, also though, the key to this is you have to know what to do. If you don't know what to do, if you don't have a coach, if you don't have a mentor, if you haven't read a book about something, a business book or technique or something that you want to implement, if you don't know what to do, it's not completely worthless. There's still value in just reflecting on where you are in life and where you want to be. And that's the key to all of this, is in that meeting, even if you don't have a coach, even if you don't have a mentor yet, if you start looking for a mentor, if you start looking for a teacher, one will appear. So if you go into that space and simply think about, where am I? Where am I in my life? Where am I in terms of my health, my income, my relationship with my employees, my relationship with my family? Where am I? Even if you just do that and reflect on that and think about, where do you want to go? What do you want your life to look like? How many vacations do you want to take? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of house do you want to live in? Where do you want your kids, if you have kids, to go to school? Even if you just begin that way and start thinking about what do you want, And then at least you can start thinking about that in terms of moving toward it. If you never sit around and think about it, if you never sit around and assess your life and think about where am I and how did I get here, then, and you don't ever reach a point where you get mentors or get coaching or something like that, unless you're just one of those rare people that doesn't need that because they instinctively know what to do. But chances are, if you're that person, you're not listening to this podcast because you don't have time, you don't need it, you blasted through this a long time ago. But for most of us, that reflection is key. It's very important. And I'm not talking about going and reading things. I'm not talking about taking in information. I'm talking about thinking through issues, trying to focus and concentrate, which I think is some of the hardest work there is. I'm not talking about looking at emails. I'm not talking about looking at your phone, though sometimes that happens because your subconscious is trying to pull you out of this, because thinking is a lot of work. It takes up a lot of calories. It takes up a lot of energy. It's why people doodle, because when you're concentrating on something, your brain is using a lot of calories and your body's trying to shut that down. So it's not going to happen overnight. The first few times you do it, it's not going to work. But if you get it on your calendar and start to schedule it, then this is something that at least will allow you to think about, where do you want to go? What do you want to do in your business? What do you want to do with your business? What do you want? One thing I would just add is that I remember a good friend of mine who also had a law practice similar to mine. We both did criminal defense. He had the right instincts. He would say, I want to come over and let's talk about how to grow our businesses and how to improve our businesses. So he had the right idea, but at that time, neither one of us knew how to do that. We didn't know anybody that knew how to do it. We didn't know anybody who would tell us how to do it. He didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to do it. So you got to be very careful that you don't just make it up. You got to be very careful that if you ask somebody for advice, you're asking somebody who knows the answer. So perhaps you know someone who's very successful. You could take them to lunch and just ask them the questions. A lot of people, maybe they look successful, but they're not. Maybe they know the answer. Maybe they don't know the answer. If you can find a true mentors, and at this point, it didn't happen overnight, but I have several people who have built multi-million-dollar law firms. I've had coaches who have coached hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, to create multi-million-dollar law firms. Those people, those coaches, those people that have done it, those mentors, they know a lot of the answers. Now, everything they say isn't 100% correct for you. So the two things I'm saying is that be aware that you're working in the whirlwind, be aware that you're likely working in chaos, be aware that you're not taking any time to reflect and think about where you want to go, what you want to do, and how do you want to proceed. Chances are, if you're like most people I know, you don't have any quiet time. It's perceived as non-productive, but it's the most productive work you can do. If you can find a time on your calendar and honor that, get to a quiet space, do it every week, start thinking about where you are, start thinking about where you want to go, then that's at least the beginning of the idea and the concept that you can move into a better life, a more profitable office, a less chaotic office, in all respects. It's not easy, it's fairly simple, but that's a starting point. If you're listening to this podcast and you're not doing that, and you're completely happy with where your life is, then don't change anything. If you like where you are, and this is not something you're concerned about, It's not for everybody. But if you want to grow, if you want to make more money, if you want to have more free time, if you want to have more peace, if you want to have more tranquility, it's at least a start in the right direction. And I would encourage you to get out of the whirlwind, at least for a little while, and reflect on where you are and where you want to go. If you start to do that, then at least you'll start to see how your life and your business can improve. If you want to know more, go to prosperitlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.